Dinner magic. Kat Zago ate dinner with the king. It seemed surreal, but it was happening. After the momentary squabble with the visor, the advisors largely left them alone. The other important-looking people at the table, whoever they were, gawked at them at first, but Kat found them increasingly easy to ignore as she focused her attention on Segna. They talked about the food and how good it was, and complimented one another on their wardrobes, and spent some moments in comfortable silence, simply savoring the flavors of their meals in proximity to one another. "What have you been doing with yourself since we first met?" Segna asked Kat. "I've been working as an acolyte at the temple," Kat said. "I thought I remember you saying you were in the business of causing trouble," Segna asked. "Isn't that quite a change of career?" Kat felt pleased that Segna had remembered this detail. "It is rather different than what I'm used to," Kat admitted, "but I like it, and it's not as if I have to give up on trouble entirely. I am here, aren't I?" Segna smiled, but kept on topic. "What god? What temple?" asked the king. "It's the polypantheonic temple," Kat replied. "I don't know that one," said Segna. "It's for worshipping practically all the gods, at least all except the major ones who already have big temples of their own." A ripple of recognition ran across Segna's face. "Oh, I'd heard there was a temple like that. I suppose I just didn't know anything about it." "What about you?" Kat asked. "How does your new job compare to teaching young wizards?" Kat thought Segna's eyes became distant for a moment, but then she shook it off and answered. "I can eat like this," Segna gestured at the plate, "and live like that," Segna gestured upwards. Kat guessed that the gesture was meant to indicate the whole palace. "And I do have the power to change things for the better, even if it takes time. But," Segna faltered, "I do miss working with magic." "Can't you still do it?" Kat asked. "It seems like magic would be a valuable skill for a king, isn't it?" "There haven't been that many opportunities," said Segna. "Can you cast a spell to silence your visor when they get quippy?" Kat asked in a conspiratorial whisper. A smile crooked Segna's lips as she shook her head no. "I have to work with these people. That would just make them even more quippy, as you put it, when the ward of silence wore off." "But you actually could do a spell like that?" Kat put down her fork and rested her elbow on the table and her chin on her hand. I could do that one from a book. I don't have it memorized. It takes a lot of work to commit a spell to memory in a useful form." "What can you do from memory?" Kat asked. "Well," Segna took a small bite from her plate and chewed thoughtfully. Swallowing, she said, "Give me your glass." Kat picked up the long-stemmed glass which still contained a little wine. She handed it to Segna. Segna held it gingerly with the fingertips of one hand. "This one's easy, because it's very small, and I'm doing it at close range." "Okay, ready," Kat said, delighted. Segna began to mutter a string of syllables. Some of it was unintelligible, but Kat thought she recognized a few of the words. She thought she heard the Arashan verbs for turning and drawing out. But Segna spoke quickly, and it was hard to tell. Suddenly the glass shattered, fragments raining loudly onto each of their plates. A big chunk fell hard on the table. Segna's hand flinched, and she dropped the still intact stem. Oh, I'm sorry," Segna cried, sounding shaken. Kat reached for Segna. "Are you all right?" She was concerned that Segna's hand might have been cut by the glass. Segna laughed. "I'm so sorry," she repeated. She didn't seem hurt. "I shouldn't have done it that way." "Are you sure you're okay?" Kat had taken a hold of Segna's hand and was inspecting it. There was no blood visible. "It worked. Look," said Segna, pointing at the table with the other hand. On the table, besides the shards of glass, there was a small purple object between the plates. It took Kat a moment to realize what it was. It was the wine, still perfectly matching the shape of the glass where it had rested before. Kat reached out and picked it up, yelped, dropped it, and then picked it up again. It was icy cold in her fingers, frozen solid. I usually did that with metal tumblers when I did it in class, explained Segna. I forgot the effect the cold would have on the glass. I'm so sorry. This last apology was directed to the servant, who had just arrived at her side and was sweeping up the fragments of glass. It's nothing, Your Majesty, insisted the servant. Kat observed that most of the conversation in the room had stopped. Some people were standing as if to get a better view. There's a piece on my plate, too, said the visor sourly to the servant. I'm sorry, visor, that was careless of me, said Segna. I believe I shall retire, Your Majesty. Good night, said the visor, rising. But dessert, protested the admonisher sardonically at the visor's receding back. They were about to bring the dessert. You should follow. Take them some, Kat suggested. The admonisher grinned. You know, I like how you think. They got up and followed the visor, accosting a servant and raiding a dessert tray on the way out. Kat looked at the two empty chairs next to her. Then she leaned close to Segna. You said you couldn't do it, but your magic silenced both of them. Kat giggled. Segna giggled. So did I. So I did. Kat licked the frozen chunk of wine, which was beginning to melt on her chilled fingers. It's good this way. Try some, she offered the wine to Segna. Segna rolled her eyes, but she was smiling. Can you show me another spell? Asked Kat. I really shouldn't, Segna said, looking around at the other guests. Would you like to go somewhere else where we can talk more? I would like that very much, said Kat.